I hope watching this video will help protect you from threats, dangerous situations, and crazy people in general. As a drone pilot, you're going to get used to interacting with a lot of different types of people, depending on what kind of work you're doing and depending on what area you are put in. There's some really great aspects of being a drone pilot, some really great lines of work. If you do telecom and you do cell towers and you end up in like the Midwest or a rural area, it's a dream if if you don't like interacting with people. I mean, if you're extroverted, you might hate it. If you don't mind working alone and maybe having days where nobody bugs you, it's fantastic. Really, the only people I had to talk to. There was like once one of the landowners who owned the land the tower was on, came down and talked to me, see what I was doing. Totally cool. That might be a path you want to go down if any of these negative interaction stories scare you. But it's all good. It's all good experience. I think each interaction just makes you stronger, makes you a better speaker, better communicator, makes you know how to handle situations like this in the future. So I hope this video gives you some tips and some ground to stand on. Really, the number one thing you want to do as a drone pilot to avoid negative interactions or to smooth them over is to look as legitimate as possible. You want to make sure you have all the gear. You want to have your vest, you want to have your hard hat, you want to have safety glasses, steel-toed boots. The company you're working for, have their logo on your shirt. If you can get a badge, just anything. Keep your Part 107 on you. Look as legitimate as possible. This will save you a lot of headache. When I started, I was a contractor and I was using my personal vehicle. I was doing these jobs in a probably a Dodge Stratus, I think, at that point. And even later on in a Chrysler 300. You really should have a truck doing this job. I would highly recommend having a truck, but you got to use what you got. But yeah, having your personal vehicle with no decals or nothing signifying the company you're working for, it's not a great look. It leaves you open for people, driving up to you, asking you what are you doing flying over my house. And honestly, I do have a lot of sympathy for those types of people. This leads right into the next tip: is to be empathetic, have sympathy for them. Some people come in really hot, but I'd feel the same way. But you always want to de-escalate these situations. You never want to make them worse. You never want to get them more angry or upset. And in the really dangerous situations, the quicker you could de-escalate, or even if there's no talking to them, the quicker you could just get out of there. In the very worst situations, you want to leave your drone behind. It's not, this job isn't worth your life. The first really bad customer interaction I had was doing telecom, doing telephone poles in an area right next to where I used to live, like not even a few months prior, which is really funny. It was in Carlsbad, like really not a bad area, a really nice area actually. And I'm standing out in the street, flying my drone, inspecting the telephone poles on the street, and this guy drives up in his truck, acts like he's about to hit me, pulls up, just totally angry, like, "What are you doing? Flying over my house? My kids saw the drone." Da, 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 da. And he thinks we're looking right at him. It was him and his wife, and they were both mad. I couldn't talk to either of them. And back to what you don't want to have. I was in my personal vehicle. I looked as legitimate as I could. I had a vest. I had a hard hat. He was not hearing any of it, and I decided to land my drone as quickly as possible, and marked in my notes that aggressive customer, unable to finish these two poles that were next to his property, and moved on. So a lot of times, depending on what company you work for, they'll be understanding. They can make it, they can flag it, and figure out a better way to come back to it. I know a lot of times if you're doing like distribution and something like this happens, anything that needs to be done with the pole, they coordinate it. Say like the trees around it need to be trimmed and something needs to be fixed on the pole. They'll coordinate it so all the jobs can get done at once. So you're not just constantly bombarding this angry person, and they hate everyone that's coming on there, once a month. So a lot of this work can be done at a later time. And once again, this job isn't worth your life. So be willing to move on when it gets too bad. Prevention is a really great way to avoid all of this. Developing preventative behaviors. So when you're out in the field, you can stop these things before they even happen. You want to make sure to door knock any property that you're going to be flying over. If you're doing telecom or distribution and there's a pole in their yard, in their backyard, you definitely want to give them a heads up. A lot of times these scopes are so big, like it's impossible for a company to like let 100 people know. Really, it usually falls on the drone pilot himself to door knock that day, give them a heads up, And just talk to as many people as you can. People walking by, tell them what you're doing. Hey, how you doing? I'm gonna give you a heads up if you see a drone. That's us. We're looking at X, Y, and Z. They could tell the neighbors, and everyone feels a whole lot safer. It can take extra time out of your day, but it'll save you a million headaches, and your intuition will thank you, because there's nothing worse than doing a job and you feel like, oh man, something's gonna happen, something's gonna go wrong. If you could get a prevention and do things like door knocking every house you're gonna fly over, or even near every house possible, it's just gonna be a huge weight lifted off your shoulders while you're flying. In addition to that, sometimes companies will alert the local police for you. If they don't, that's a good move. Let them know you're in the area. If you're going to fly near a school, you definitely want to give them a heads up. Coordinate what time would work best for them. You don't want to be flying when the kids are outside at recess. So if you're near a school, say you're doing telecom, you have a line of poles on the sidewalk right next to a school, give them a call, schedule with them, plan accordingly. I hope these tips have been helpful and have at least got you started thinking the right way about how to deal with interactions. If you have any questions, definitely leave a comment. I'll make future videos. Make sure to follow Dead Set Drones, and you can check out our Patreon at patreon.com/deadsetdrones if you do want to support. Just got started making content a few weeks ago, and it's been really enjoyable. Thanks to everyone who's been watching and following so far. Thanks again.